there is absolutely a different way that you can go about handling yourself, managing your cash flow in a different financial environment. Because the one that you're in right now, if you're not practicing infinite banking, is that which there's this constant financial headwind. Part of that financial headwind in our lives is interest, is taxes. Mismanagement of cash flow can also lead to the result of financial headwind in your life.
Welcome to the WinEH podcast. This show is focused on empowering ranchers. Whether you're a seasoned rancher or just getting started, we'll guide you on how to use the infinite banking concept as an alternative way to finance your operations. It's a better way to think about money. Join us as we discuss planning for the future, attracting the next generation, and the art of keeping more money within the family. Here's your hosts, Winnie and Lacy.
Hey, welcome in. We are back for another exciting session. Well, I find it exciting, but we are coming back into the book to delve a lot deeper today into the problem, which is on page 17 of the 5th edition of Becoming Your Own Banker book that both Lacy and I get to pick apart and hopefully get you excited to get this book and get it into your hands to really dive into it yourself. So it's only 2 pages and yet it is so rich with information. So I don't know if we can even you guys are in for a treat today. And a part of the reason why I think it's such a rich page is for several different reasons. It's when I first started sharing the infinite banking concept here for Canadians back in 2010, 2011, 2012, we spent a good portion in our live sessions teaching this to the public, just really spelling it out for people. And this is where the greatest opportunities to wake up are on these 2 pages alone. There's several different really great lessons to unpack here that simply are not even taught. This is basic things that most people say they wish they knew and they wish was taught in school, but is not, just on these 2 pages alone. So that's why both Lacy and I are very excited to be here today to dive into this information with you. So before we get going though, I think I love the very first thing that is being shared on this page. And I'd love for you, Lacy, to open up with that.
Yes, I love it too. So Nelson's book always gets me excited because we spend so much time focusing on farming without the bank. But when we take the time to really come back to becoming your own banker, it reminds us why we are all here and sharing what we're sharing. So he starts this page off, or this section off, with a Bible verse. And it says, when Jesus saw him lying and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him. And so he's talking about a man who had been sick for a long time and was wanting to be healed. And so Jesus said to him, "Do you want to get well?" And then the story goes on. But I think what I guess Nelson probably was trying to say is do we want a better financial path or a better financial lifestyle? Quite frankly, do we want it, and how bad do we want it?
Another thing that quite often Nelson really talked about is if you have no idea what the problem is, you will not know why what's written in these pages are even a solution in the first place. Again, if you don't think it's a problem to have over 30% of our income disappear and go to others where it can never be reused in your life, then you'll probably just continue doing what you're doing and never look at something that's the solution within these pages.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Because he talks about, and of course, this book was written quite a few years ago, but he goes into the pattern of spendings that we are all so accustomed to and that most of us fall victim to. And when you go through, and even when I'm rereading it, it's an eye opener.
It really is. There's actually several different analogies here with just, again, within these 2 pages. But one of the other things that I really think about is that I believe you guys might have heard of this analogy where a frog can be sitting in boiling water and not even know it. Because if you put a frog in cool water to start and then just slowly turn up the temperature, it doesn't realize it's boiling to death. And the same goes for here in the problem. Like if you have no earthly idea on how we are sitting in boiling hot water or get to be in boiling hot water in the way that we are spending money, if we kept doing what we're doing, we're going to eventually drown. And this is why Nelson talks about how, he breaks it down into if we ended up financing everything, right? Our cars, our home, and our living expenses through and when he means financing, it's that right now in the North American marketplace, you can find every single dollar you spend is financed, meaning you're either going to choose to finance it through a lending institution, or you're going to lease it, or you're going to spend cash. Just so we are getting all on the same page. That's what Nelson means. Every single dollar that you spend is a financing decision. And so he's using the example here of a typical young person, 29 years old, not even making $30,000 a year, and how this ends up. And now here's another thing that Nelson talked about live in his sessions with people in his 12-hour workshops, is that he used an example like this of a 29-year-old making under $30,000 is because he's presenting a normal, regular North American issue, right? Someone living just below poverty line. And the reason why he's also doing that is because he wants to illustrate to all of us that in order to create a solution in your life and to change things in your life, you do not have to be rich to get started.
I think that's so important. So important.
And so that's number one, why he chose the example that he's making. So of course, everyone listening here, it's all relative to our own situation. So anyways, financing. If you financed each of these areas of your life, how much of it is actually disappearing, especially if you're lending money to pay off the car, lending money to pay off the house. And then some people even borrow on credit to pay for their groceries, their living expenses and whatnot. And he's demonstrating that very little. In fact, in this example, he's even saying only 5% is actually going towards savings. And that's actually being nice, he said in this book, because most people aren't even able to put away 5%. And what is the issue with all of this? And that we get fooled. And this is where we're coming back to, how do we even know that we're boiling slowly in hot water, right? Compared to the frogs, that we get turned around and our understanding of interest rates has us blinded from the truth. Because it keeps us short-sighted from actually seeing what will happen to us in the long term. So one of the things that he says, on page 17, is that, again, many of these items being your cars, your house, your living expenses, again, charged on cards, and the balance is financed by paying cash for some of them, and thus giving us interest that could be earned otherwise. So even if you're a person that is actually paying in cash, you are giving up interest that you could have earned otherwise. This is something that, again, when you come visit us and we have certain education sessions, we actually break this down. What? I thought if I pay in cash, I don't have to pay any interest on any of that. What do you mean I'm giving up interest? So we break that all down, but it's just sort of beyond the scope of today's session. And the other thing that he mentions here, also on page 17, just on the second half of the page, is when you go to the doctor's office to get a shot of some kind, the criteria is not the rate at which the medicine is injected into you. It is actually the volume. Too little and it won't do any good. Too much and it can actually kill you. So as it relates to finances, what he's talking about here is that it's not the percentage of interest that's being charged. It's actually the volume of dollars that actually leave your pocket that will never work for you again. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so this is something that we can offer. You can maybe tell them what's on chapter 4 of this book.
Chapter 4. Yeah, this is a really good conversation, because when we start to talk about this, you begin to dig up all of these different topics to discuss within this. So chapter 4 in Farming Without the Bank talks about payments and interest. Again, you've heard us talk about this time and time again about the volume of interest. So it's like, okay, we're going to finance this purchase, but how much are we actually going to pay in interest over the course of that term? And then, so there's one action item in chapter 4, and it says, if you're an established farmer, I challenge you to add up the volume of interest that you have lost to lenders over the years. If you're a new farmer, I encourage you to estimate what you will lose over your lifetime paying interest to the bank. So if you have a line of credit at the bank that you use for your operating expenses, or you have a land note that has interest on it, how much? Add it all up. What is it going to total? What could this money have done for you or done for your operation? So if you had all of the money back that you've paid in interest, and we've referred to this before, there's one client who recouped $90,000 in interest that was being paid to the bank every single year. Yeah, every single year they were paying $90,000 in interest, and that is now recouped because of what they've built within their policies. And so think about that. If you could recoup that money that you're paying to the lenders in interest, what would that do for your operation? And let's just stick with the $90,000. If you recouped $90,000, how many more head of cattle could you run? Tailor it to your own specific situation, but what could it do for you?
Yeah, totally. Pick up what you're laying down, Lacy. And again, coming back to the simple title of page 17, like this whole section, it's a problem. If you can sit there and actually calculate the volume of actual physical dollars that leave your pocket every year for the method of financing that you're choosing to pay things with, which is the very basis of, like, if you don't stop and think about how you're financing your day-to-day life, your day-to-day operations, you will never stop to really think about, do you have a problem or not? Just like those folks that end up thinking, oh my God, I'm losing $90,000 a year to the bank that I will never get back and put to work for myself ever again. Yeah. And again, the same, like a ranching family that I first worked with that just absolutely realized that they needed to change because $250,000 was going to the banks each and every year. And they made just shy in net profit. They made just a little bit less than the bank, but still, they were sick. They were sick knowing that the bank made more than them, and they took none of the risks and did none of the work. So if you don't know what the problem is, you're not going to know that the infinite banking concept can be a solution for you.
Yeah.
Right? Go ahead. I think you were about to say everything. Say something.
So on page 18, I have highlighted where Nelson starts talking about the housing situation and having a mortgage, which a lot of us have a mortgage. But he just goes on to say, talks about the $34,000 that had gone to interest and closing costs in this specific case. If he sold the house in less than 5 years, then it was even worse. But what I underlined was he thinks that he is buying a house, but all he is really doing is making the wheels of the banking business and the real estate business in that order turn. And so, yes, in the end, if we honor our repayment terms, then we do eventually end up owning that house, maybe 25 or 30 years down the road.
But very slowly.
Very slowly. And over that course, we are turning the wheels of the banking and the real estate business. And so, yes, sometimes we have to do business with the bank. But is there a way, and we're here to tell you that there is and to teach you that we can slowly rely less on them if we identify the problem and work towards a solution of making them plan B.
So for some of us out there, a lot of us really just love the general gist of what it is that we're talking about. However, it's very common to also bump into people who really want the details, right? Because they want to truly understand and have it become evident and have it proven to them that what they've been doing is not good for them. So if you go onto our website and sign up for our introductory video series, I go through this in slow, not slow-mo, but I go through this in I walk you through the example, exactly what the problem is of what we're doing, a mortgage example and how this is. So if you want this to be proven by numbers, please sign up for our introductory video series to do that. Okay, yep. Go ahead.
Well, so then after he talks about the housing, we go a couple of paragraphs down and he just says, add up all of the interest that he is paying out and find out that 34.5 cents of every disposable dollar that this individual had was paid out in interest. 34.5 cents. Sickening.
Mm-hmm. And then one of the last analogies that Nelson talks about, and this might catch the heart and the attention of those that are pilots or people that are in the aviation industry, because of course, Nelson uses this analogy because he was a World War II pilot himself. He kind of uses it as an analogy to compare ourselves to the financial world, that until this very moment, until you started really, like, the whole reason why you're listening in right now is because you know something's not exactly right and you want to make something better. And we're here to confirm for you that there is absolutely a different way that you can go about handling yourself, managing your cash flow in a different financial environment, because the one that you're in right now, if you're not practicing infinite banking, is that which there's this constant financial headwind. Part of that financial headwind in our lives is interest, right? Is taxes. And also mismanagement of cash flow can also lead to the result of financial headwind in your life. And so how can we create an environment in which we can have a financial tailwind? Is that even possible? So he talks a lot about that. And like I said, I really recommend getting this book, Becoming Your Own Banker, or going onto our website to sorry, I'm kind of taking over what you typically do, but getting the power combo where you get both books so that you can actually really read in further detail. And it doesn't take too long, but I think that, like for you, Lacy, for me, it's like when you start having your mind touch these words, it just sinks in so much deeper. So we're not here to read this book to you word for word, because that's your job.
All of us want the best for ourselves, and we want to do whatever's going to set ourselves up for having that freedom of options, being a little less reliant on the lenders. And yeah, identifying the problem here where Nelson said, most of us are functioning or flying into a headwind. And so if you want to know how you can get out of that headwind, yeah, you're right, Winnie. Head over to our website, ranchyourway.com, and grab the power combo where you get both books. Because after you read one, no matter which one you start with, you will want to read the next one. And so ranchyourway.com, grab your copy. We appreciate you. Head over to Apple Podcast, Spotify, leave us a review, or on YouTube, leave us a comment. We would love to see you on there. If you know friends or family that you think would love to hear the content that we are putting out, please direct them to our website or our podcast. So thank you for listening to us talk about the problem, and we will see you on the next episode.
So glad you leaned in with us on the WinEH podcast. We truly hope you're feeling more informed and empowered to take another step towards optimizing your financial life. Right now, make sure you hit subscribe so you can keep growing and learning with us. Until next time, we wish you prosperity in every area of your life.